Mangwanani mwalelepo vukenjani tekpas vanave Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening in the African continent and beyond. It's Monday, but it's not a blue Monday, not at all. You're joined by Ashwin Berry and Aina Raizakoya.
Happy Monday, everyone. Now today is the International Day of Education. UN member states recognize the importance of working to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education at all levels, so that all people may have access to lifelong learning opportunities that help them to acquire the knowledge and skill needed to access opportunities to participate fully in society and contribute to sustainable development. And here is more on International Day of Education. Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. In our top stories, Burkina Faso government denies army takeover after barracks gunfire. Burkina Faso government denies that the army had seized control of the country on Sunday after exchanges of gunfire took place at multiple army barracks, including 2 in the capital. Information on social media would have people believe there was an army takeover. Government spokesperson Al-Kassoum Maiga said in a statement, the government, while recognizing the validity of the shootings in some barracks, denies this information and calls on the population to remain calm. The gunfire came a day after clashes between police and demonstrators during banned protests against the authorities' failure to stem the jihadist violence ravaging the West African country.
In our second story, we are in Malawi as government whips diplomats. Malawi's government, through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has with immediate effect revoked the diplomatic statuses of all the 9 recalled diplomats who were protesting their return home from the United States. Led by Malawi ambassador to the United States, Edward Sawerengera, the envoys recalled from New York and Washington obtained a court order stopping government from proceeding with the process until their luggage shipping concerns were addressed. They went ahead to seek permission from the court so that the order that they should return home by January 14 should go for judicial review. But in his judgment on Friday, High Court Judge Simeon Ndeza threw out the application. Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Rejoice Shumba confirmed the revocation of the diplomatic statuses of the 9 diplomats who sought the court's intervention. We recalled about 70 diplomats and 50 of them have already returned home. Of those remaining, 9 went to court, and they are the ones whose diplomatic statuses have been revoked.
Nigeria outrage at Kano schoolgirl killing. The discovery of the decomposing body of the 5-year-old schoolgirl Hanifa Abubakar has triggered shock and outrage across Nigeria, where the hashtag Justice for Hanifa is trending. The owner of her school, Abdul Malik Mohammed Tanko, has been arrested and the establishment closed. He allegedly kidnapped Hanifa in the northern Kano state in December to demand a ransom of 14,600. Police say he later killed Hanifa after realizing she had recognized him. According to the authorities, Master Tanko led officers to the school premises where he had buried the schoolgirl's body in a shallow grave. Her remains were then exhumed for medical examination and a proper burial by her family. Master Tanko has not yet been charged.
Truly horrific news. In our next story, UN says thousands of Eritrean refugees are dying in Tigray as access to aid remains blocked. The United Nations Refugee Agency says thousands of Eritrean refugees in Ethiopia's embattled northern Tigray province are living under life-threatening conditions because they have no access to humanitarian aid. UN refugee staff members say they were shocked by what they saw when they visited the Mai Aini and Adi Harush camps for Eritrean refugees in southern Tigray for the first time in 3 weeks. Intense fighting and security concerns have prevented them from going there until now. Boris Cheshirkov, a spokesman for the UN Refugee Agency, says the team found refugees scared and struggling to get enough to eat. He says they lacked medicine and had little or no access to clean water. Conditions in Tigray have seriously deteriorated since the Ethiopian military incursion into the province in November 2020. Cheshirkov says extreme hunger is rising because supplies cannot be moved into the region. He says food is running out in the two camps and refugees have been selling their clothes and few belongings to get food.
At least 17 dead in Ghana explosion. An explosion caused by a truck carrying explosive for a mine killed at least 17 people and injured 59 others on Thursday and devastated a town in western Ghana, said the government. The explosion occurred around noon on Thursday in Apiat, not far from Bogoso, a mining town in the western region. Videos authenticated by AFP show a large crater, blown houses and debris strewn across the ground for hundreds of meters. Several lifeless bodies and some dismembered are visible and testify to the violence of the explosion. According to the first element of the investigation, it was an accident involving a truck transporting explosive materials for a mining company, a motorcycle and a third vehicle that took place near an electrical transformer and led to the explosion, said Minister of Information Okoyo Opong Nkrumah in a statement issued on Thursday night.
In our next story, abandoned villages in Uige. In the Ngundu village in the Kika district, about 31 kilometers from the city of Uige, the scenario is desolate. In the place where there were more than 100 residencies and close to 500 inhabitants, only 6 houses remain, surrounded by tall grass, which serve only as a storage place for sacks of charcoal and wood for people who still take advantage of the vast savannas and forests as places of work and earning income. In this village, most of the population, especially young people, began to leave the place between 2008 and 2009. The search for better living conditions in the city of Uige and in the country's capital, Luanda, is at the base of the catastrophic exodus. The 74-year-old Chief Alberto Mazembula says that until 2010, there were not more than 15 inhabited houses in the village. In Gundo village, there is a school with only 1 classroom and the teaching and learning process is guaranteed by 2 teachers. There is also a health post where a single nurse provides primary health care. The Mbanzo Polo village began to be neglected by its inhabitants in 2007 when, due to a lack of electricity and a more efficient water distribution system, they decided to build other houses or rent in neighborhoods on the outskirts of the city of Uige.
Mozambique searches 6 missing in the Zambezi River. Mozambique has set up more teams to help in the search for 6 missing people after a vessel sank in the river Zambezi earlier this week in the western province of Tete. The teams are drawn from the National Disaster Organization, the Maritime Administration, Marine Forces and local fishermen. It comes after a search and rescue team was unable to locate the missing people for a couple of days because of the strong current in the big river. Now on Thursday, the search spread to other districts in Tete and the central Sofala province. An official appealed to fishermen and people living downstreams to report to the authorities in case they find bodies in the river. 2 persons who were on the vessel have survived, and this is according to reports.
In our next story, whereabouts of about 500 Angolans are known. 2 weeks after a group of Angolan immigrants were expected to be repatriated to their country from Etunda in Namibia's Omsati region, the whereabouts of nearly 500 of them is unknown. According to Etunda Village Secretary Joseph Shininge, 1,792 Angolan migrants were registered to be repatriated to their country, but only 1,300 have gone back. He said the whereabouts of the others is unknown. I see some of them at a location at Etunda. They have put up tents in the area where they sleep, Shininge said. He added that he has not visited the site yet, but he believes many work at the Etunda irrigation project. Only 1,792 migrants remained and were all repatriated, said Njala, who added that perhaps those who are there are those who are in villages and missed registration. He added that Angolan nationals are scattered around different towns and not only at Omusati region. Angolans started moving to Namibia in small numbers in February last year in search of food because their villages had not received enough rain over the past 3 years.
In our next story, 1,620 children have received the first dose of Pfizer. About 1,620 children have received the first dose of Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine since December 2021 in Malawi. Public Relations Officer for the Ministry of Health, Adrian Chikumbe, said those vaccinated are between the age ranges of 12 to 17. He said the vaccine was introduced as a way of protecting children from contracting the disease and minimize the spread of COVID-19. The PRO described the figures as not impressive comparing to the large population of children aged between 12 and 17. We want to create demand on Pfizer vaccine. We are going to work with the Ministry of Education, traditional leaders, so that we may make people aware of the vaccine, Chikumbe explained. He added that the ministry has so far not received complaints, which was a clear indication that the vaccine was safe for children.
In the last of our top stories, development program for 145 territories, China wants to support the DRC. The Democratic Republic of Congo, which is preparing to implement a development program based on its 145 territories, could be accompanied by the Middle Kingdom. The Chinese ambassador accredited to Kinshasa, Zhu Jing, says his country is ready. The Chinese diplomat affirmed that his country was ready to accompany the DRC in the execution of this program. He says that China is ready to support the implementation of this program for real development for the benefit of the Congolese people. Zhu Jing also said that the Chinese government had announced 9 programs to promote cooperation with the Congolese government. He cites the development of the list of projects in a few sectors, including public health, agriculture, investment promotion, and trade. All right, that brings us to the end of our top stories. Now, if there's a group of people who had quite a difficult time in COVID-19, of course, for all of us it was difficult, but it's entrepreneurs. So to see a Namibian woman, Ilka Platt, the owner of Poya Media, getting an African Leadership Award during this time, well, it's fantastic, and we'll be looking at her work after the break.
Happy Monday and thank you very much for joining us. Now, NMH Jereen Hope spoke to Namibian businesswoman, the founder of Poya Media, Ilka Platt, about being the recipient of the African Leadership Award, the internship she offers for young public relation practitioners, and her involvement in the upcoming Namibian Institutional Investors Forum. And here is their conversation.
Right, good morning, ladies, and good morning, viewers. Thank you for joining me this morning. With me is Ilka Platt, the founder of Poya Media, and her intern, Lani Hawala. Let's get started with this. Ilka won an awesome prize last year.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about this African Leadership Award and why you were the recipient.
So late last year, I received this nomination email. And you know, this day and age, you don't know if it's scam, if it's spam, is it, a hoax? So I was very cautious with the nomination, especially when you're used to just doing things in the Namibian context. And when I got nominated for it and it was done online in India, I'm like, hey, sure, let me embrace this. And it was legit. It was legit. I did research in terms of the past couple of years, who were the recipients. And it's great knowing that whatever you post on social media in terms of the work that you do, it's not only being recognized in a Namibian context, but worldwide.
Wow, that is really a feather in your cap.
I know it is.
So they were specifically looking at everything that Poya had published.
Correct.
And that you were involved with.
Yes, so online, in terms of the business, in terms of, the caliber, your profile, what you've done in your private capacity, and they've looked at all the different, African countries on the continent to find out who really stands out. So that was an honor for me, based on the very, very rigorous criteria that they had. And they had a lot of, high-profiled panelists to actually judge the nominees.
That is awesome. Seriously a feather in your cap.
Thank you.
Right, Ilka, of course you didn't just receive this international accolade. Locally, you did just as well.
That's correct. So the Namibian Business Hall of Fame, they've been around since 2004. So what they do, they look for entrepreneurs that really shape the industry in which they operate in. Again, this was done by nomination, so I'm like, praise God! And I think you feel more deserving of it when it comes by surprise. So the Namibian Business Hall of Fame has their laureates and then have the emerging entrepreneurs. So in my private capacity as the founder, I was awarded that first week of December. And I always say, milestones, accolades are good, but at least it shows you at the end of the day that, people recognize the work that you do. And sometimes it might be very difficult as a business owner and you don't see the rewards, face to face, because every day there are challenges. But it's these, just reminders that you're headed in the right direction.
Yes, and really getting recognition from outside your corporation is really, it's just a wonderful step.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Support for SMEs.
Yes.
Apologies. How does Poya Media help there?
Great, and Lani is testimony to that. I mean, she can give typical examples of, the kinds of SMEs that we work with. I always say with a brand or an organization, you should be unique and you should be known for doing something. There are many advertising, marketing, PR agencies, but what makes us unique is that we focus on SMEs, and it's that first 12 months, 24 months that you need to get your brand out there. I think many times with SMEs, they don't realize the importance of marketing and PR, and they think it's a nice to have. It's beautiful, it's pretty, because maybe the funding isn't there. But investing a little can go a long way, just to get your brand out there, so that the moment somebody says the Namibian Sun or Dear Republican, people already know about it and they buy into the product that you service. So it's just making it easier for anyone that's come in the industry but still has a great brand and reputation that aligns with ours.
Well, Poya, you are very, very well known for your internship programs. Tell us why this is important. Lima, I think I'll direct this to you.
So internship is so important because it actually helps you to put into practice what you learned in theory in university. And for me especially, such as public relations, writing press statements, writing minutes for a meeting, speech writing, I really learned to put that in practice.
Well, we're actually, one of our colleagues is one of your products. So,
She got
Wet,
it!
yes!
Oh, what was something?
Wet is an awesome addition to our team,
Yeah.
so we can really see how the internships are working. How do you go about choosing your interns?
It's very difficult, and I always say it's like an HR recruiting a full-time employee. if you make a wrong mistake, it really, really disturbs the operational business. And what we would love is that it's a stepping stone for them to get experience to end up in corporate full-time. Over 80% of our interns are now fully employed, which we can boast about. Late last year, we would like to thank MTC that's now paying our interns on a full-time basis with their internship program. So it's working smart. Also, they need to have 600 hours in order to graduate. And I always say, it's not looking at the short term, what you can get, but long term. How can we be a reference for your future employer?
Now, one of the programs that, or projects, excuse me, that you are working on now is this investment forum that's taking place in Swakopmund in March. Will you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, so March, we've decided to collaborate with our head office, which is in Botswana. And the great thing about stakeholder relations is that you are able to work with so many different people from outside just the Namibian scope. So our partners from Botswana, we decided let's host this in Swakopmund with captains of the industry, those that will discuss about, harnessing alternative investment to recover the economic situation, especially during the pandemic. Captain of the industries, we have your, Office of the President Representatives, James Mube. We have the Development Bank of Namibia representative, Martin Nkumbi. So we have those that can really share their wisdom, their knowledge with others and open a dialogue.
Wow, those are really actually big names.
Yes, they are.
And we're also very excited. Early next, or not in next month, in March, we'll be doing an interview with the CEO of MN Capital, Michael Ndanisa. What is he involved in?
So with him, and it's always good to have a mission and a vision from a brainchild, and that's where PR comes very, very handy to make sure that the founder and the concept and the idea is being put to life. So MN Capital, it's an organization that has been doing many conferences in Namibia for over a decade. So it's a reputable company, and they've been around the block.
How many interns are you hiring this year?
So right now we take 4 every 6 months, so it's a rotational shift. So March, be on the lookout for the next intake.
Laimi, what lies ahead for you?
Well, I can either extend my internship, I would love to, I really love working with Poya Media, or possibly look for another internship within public relations.
That's it, ladies and gents. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for having us.
Africa Good Morning prides itself on being your reliable source for decentralized African news. Now, I believe they call this place the real Africa. So let's cross over to Mike Sichula in Zambia as he gives us the updates. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Africa, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Now, of course, COVID-19 keeps interrupting a lot of things, one of those primary things being education. But it seems like school pupils will be getting back to the pen and the book. Tell us about that.
Yes, indeed. On the 10th of January 2022, schools were supposed to open, but it was during the period when the Omicron was just coming into existence in terms of Zambia, knowing that the variant was in place. So they had to postpone the reopening schools to the 24th of January 2022, which is today. And what the government has done is that the reopening of schools this year is that parents and guardians are no longer going to pay school fees. They are no longer going to pay examination fees because the government has subsidized the provision of education from grade 1 up to grade 12. So meaning parents will only have to pay for the school requirements like books, shoes, ball pens, among other things, as well as transportation to schools. So this is one of the milestones that the new administration has put in place to ensure that there is education even to people who may not afford. So the delayed reopening of schools has come also with a blessing of having not to pay school fees and other user fees.
All right, the Zambian health authorities are recording positive gains in line with the global target of ending AIDS by 2030. What are some of these achievements?
With the fight against COVID-19, a number of diseases seem not to be given much attention. However, from the Ministry of Health in Zambia, they have taken this as something that they need to do to ensure that all these other diseases are given the attention they deserve. So, for instance, in the fight against HIV and AIDS, Zambia is on track in terms of meeting the target of ending AIDS by 2030. So I'll give an example. The 390s, that is treatment targets, where 90 people who are living with the virus should know their status. In terms of those achievements, about more than 90%, 92% of people living with HIV in Zambia know their status. The 96.2% of these people who are on antiretroviral are on ART treatment. The 91 of these have achieved their viral suppression. So in terms of the 1990 targets, Zambia has gone a step further to achieve all of them before even 2030 as the global target for ending AIDS has been put in place. They are doing this in line as they continue to fight COVID-19 to ensure that these other diseases are not left behind.
All right, now on a rather sad note, the last-born son of the late founding father, Kenneth Kaunda, his name is Kambaranke Kaunda, passed on and he was laid to rest on Saturday. When did he pass away?
Yes, the late, who was a pilot by profession, died on 13th January at his house in Mozambique at the age of 56. He is survived by a wife and 4 children. Captain Kambarange's death comes barely 6 months after his father, Dr. Kaunda, died on the 17th of June 2021. So the burial took place at his late father's house in State Lodge, and he was buried next to his mother, Betty Kaunda, at a funeral which was attended by most members of his Muslim community. So this is one of the sad news for the family of the Kaunda, having lost their icon, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, who was Zambia's first president on 17th June 2021.
All right, in your final story, Master Sichula, it is sport-related. The Football Association of Zambia has launched the rehabilitation of 5 stadiums across the country funded by FIFA. Could you please briefly share some of the details on this development?
Yes, the Football Association of Zambia, led by Andrew Kamanga, secured funding from FIFA to rehabilitate and upgrade stadiums, namely Independence Stadium in northwestern Zambia, Wapula in Kasama, and Devet Kaunda in the eastern province of Zambia. So there are 5 stadiums that are earmarked for rehabilitation and upgrade, and FIFA has provided $300,000 each for each stadium to be upgraded to standards befitting modern football. So these works were delayed because first, the Football Association of Zambia needed to meet the requirements that have been set by FIFA to ensure that there is transparency and accountability for all the funds that were provided under this project. So this project has commenced in all the four stadiums that I've talked about. The other fifth stadium will be rehabilitated, but works cannot continue because it involves the previous contractor and the Zambian government. This stadium is in Livingstone, Zambia's tourism capital. So this is what the Football Association of Zambia has begun to do now.
All right. Well, hopefully it also translates into new talent for Chipolo Polo because, they are rehabilitating everything from coaches and whatnot. Thank you, Mike, for bringing us the news from Zambia.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning.
It's always good having you here, Mike Sichula. Something else that's always good to have is fantastic weather, but you can't really, ask for that. You just take what's there. So let's check out the forecast.
The My In a Property Show provides viewers with the best-in-class property content, from looking for the perfect house to transforming it to the perfect home, with focus on interior designing, transforming your garden into a tranquil haven, to going green and having the funds and security of financing and insurance. The My In a Property Show has it all. Tune in and make your house a home with our monthly My In a Property Show on Wednesday evenings at 6:30 on all the NMH Facebook platforms and our website TV channel 1up2, 1up2.com.
Welcome back to Africa Good Morning. Inquest of 3 Namibian citizens and 1 Zambian citizen shot at the Sedudu Island are delivered. Now, Masejo Mohwaza, all the way in Botswana, has this story and more. Good morning, Masejo. Please take your stories as they are.
Good morning, Aina. Good morning, Ashwin. And good morning, Africa. Now, in very controversial news, Kasane Regional Magistrate Taboka Mupipi has found that the Botswana Defence Force cannot be held liable for the deaths of 3 Namibian fishermen and their Zambian cousin, Tommy Martin and Wamunyima Nchindu, and their cousin Sinvula Munyeme were shot and killed by BDF soldiers on 5th November 2020 along the Choba River on Sedudu Island. Mupipi ruled that the BDF had no intention to kill when they were deployed, but only retaliated after the Nchindo brothers and their cousin allegedly shot at them. She added that the BDF were following standard operational procedures and that the fact that there was no gun found does not mean there was no weapon. The spokesperson of Namibian-based movement Namibian Lives Matter, Professor Earl Mudabedi, expressed that the ruling is biased and miscarriage of justice by Botswana, and that the movement will now seek legal recourse and redress from the SADC, the AU, and the UN.
Please continue with your stories, Masejo.
All right. And now, former President Festus Mogae has this week been unveiled as one of the 3 patrons for the upcoming inaugural UICN Africa Protected Areas Congress, APAC. When giving his acceptance speech for the nomination, Mogae said APAC must be a turning point for the relationship between the global community and African institutions. He said community and international organizations have played a pivotal role over the last 60 years. Mogae added that it is necessary for African communities and institutions to be actively involved in the conversation agenda for ownership and integration within the aspirations and visions for the Africa everyone wants. Morae joins two other former heads of state from Ethiopia and Niger as patrons. The APAC Congress is set to be the first ever continent-wide gathering of African leaders, citizens, and interest groups with the aim to discuss the role of protected areas in conserving nature and safeguarding Africa's iconic wildlife and promoting sustainable development while conserving Africa's cultural heritage. Last but not least, this is regarding the Kazungula Bridge Marathon. According to the Chief Executive Officer, Albert Morgan, said that the title sponsor for the marathon, FNB, has pumped 1 million towards the event. He also shared that the preparations for the event are successful and started in 2020, however, then were disturbed by the COVID-19 pandemic. Preparations are going well, and we have been doing robust activations around the country. We are doing this to attract more people to register, and registration has been extended to 31st January 2022. Winners of the inaugural FNB Kazungula Marathon will smile all the way to the bank after organizers set the winner's check for 42.2 kilometers at 50,000 pula, and the runner-ups getting 22,000 pula, 18,000 pula, 15,000 pula, and 10,000 pula in that order. The prize monies are for both men and women. The marathon is scheduled for February 26th in Kasane at the Kazungula Bridge. That's a wrap for
now,
me
I may
today.
not be much of a runner myself, but I might look into that. Thank you, Masejo, for bringing us the news from Botswana.
Thank you for having me, and good morning, Africa, once again.
Hey, good morning indeed. You almost say good afternoon, and I get it. The African sun starts very bright and early, and we love it like that. Now, after the break, we're going to be talking about civil society in Zimbabwe pressuring the government to tax the rich. So, just stick around for economic news after this. Now, as I previously highlighted, civil society pressures government in Zimbabwe to tax the rich. Civil society organizations grouping demanded the urgent introduction of wealth tax to facilitate the trickle-down effect of financial resources to the country's have-nots in a bid to reduce the alarming poverty levels. The Zimbabwe Flight Inequality Alliance, a broad-based 18-member NGO's network spokesperson Janet Zhou, declared a week of action, piling pressure on the government to introduce tax for the country's wealthiest. Poverty in Zimbabwe has risen to unsustainable levels, surging to 7.9 million people, plunging into extreme poverty. Surprisingly, the rich, political elites, and wealthy corporations registered an incredible rise in wealth and assets whose origins are unfortunately a result of illicit public transfers into the hands of a few individuals, she said. Zhou stressed that it is time the government introduced a COVID-19 windfall tax for corporates and individuals who have made phenomenal profits since 2020 to fund a just and equitable response to COVID-19 induced poverty and suffering.
Katima awards 2 million tended to fix potholes. The CEO of Katima Mulilo Town Council, Rafael Liswaniso, says the tender of 2 million has been awarded to Eshi Trading CC to fix the reoccurring problem of potholes which plugs many of the town's roads. Liswaniso says the heavy rain and influx of trucks in the central business district is destroying the roads like Hagegengop and Lifasi. However, he is hopeful that more funds will be made available through the Road Authority Fund administration to upgrade the roads. He says many local business people are unwilling to assist the town council. However, the trucks with the heavy loads use roads to deliver goods to their very same businesses. The Road Fund administration has made available 3.9 million Namibian dollars to the town council for the maintenance of both the tarred and the gravel roads, not only limited to maintaining the funds, but also allows the upgrade of roads, he said. He reveals that they have engaged the Road Authority to provide engineers to assist with the design to raise more roads and storm water drainage system.
In our next story, Angola evaluates the fight against money laundering. Angola has sent their second draft of responses on the country's financial system to the East and Southern Africa Anti-Money Laundering Group as part of the mutual evaluation to which it has been subject since October 2021. The delivery of the document follows the remittance of a first one sent on December 14, 2021 in compliance with a 500-page questionnaire report. Thereafter, Angola waits for experts from several countries to arrive in June this year. When giving the status of the process to the press at an open meeting held in December 2021 in Luanda, Francisca De Brito explains that the completion of the document involves several institutions, including the supervisory and regulatory bodies of the financial system, in addition to the FIU itself. The final report will allow Angola to identify the shortcomings of its financial system at the same time as it will bring proposals on the best ways to solve them.
Fuel conundrum. The country could be heading towards a period of fuel scarcity in the near future if its recent petroleum retail market trends and foreign exchange reserve development are anything to go by. In recent weeks, infrequent supplies of petroleum products were experienced in the country's major cities, a development that is slowly creeping into the economy. Business Times has observed that most filling stations in towns have been running out of fuel more than once in a week, a development that is unusual. This, coupled with the reports of depleted foreign exchange reserves, are raising fear of scarcity of the commodity in the coming months. A weekly financial market developments report by the Reserve Bank of Malawi shows that gross official reserves in a week ending on the 7th of July, declining by 23 million and close at 406 million, representing 1.6 months of imports.
All right, that brings us to the end of our economic news stories. You know what comes up next? Economic indicators. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning. It's time for your sports news stories. There's a bright smile on my face. That means the Stormers won this weekend. I'm feeling fantastic about that. But of course, Ari Hochart is going to start off with AFCON and the English Premier League. Ari, take it away.
Yes, very good morning, Ashwin. Indeed, it was a good win for the Stormers in Pretoria, but we'll get to that. The big news at the moment is obviously the football or the soccer, African Cup of Nations. Lots of action happening there. It's the business end of the tournament now. It's the last 16 teams that's left in the tournament, and results from yesterday. The two games played yesterday was that Burkina Faso beat Gabon by 7-6 on penalties after it ended 1-1. So close game there. Burkina Faso going through to the last 8. And then also the last game yesterday, Tunisia Tunisia that beat Nigeria by 1-0. And that was a bit of a surprise. Nigeria had the brilliant lead up to the last round of last 16. They were the form side. Tunisia had all kinds of challenges, lost 2 rounds in the playoffs or the round robin. But Tunisia won by 1-0. Today's games, it is Guinea that plays against Gambia. It is the host, Cameroon, that will also be in action today. They play the Comoros. And then a big game for Southern Africa tomorrow. It is Morocco that play against Malawi. Excuse me. Time for some English Premier League. There was some action there as well. Manchester City dropped some points. They played against Southampton away, but that result was 1-1 result. And so they dropped some points on Liverpool. Liverpool had a great win yesterday. They beat Crystal Palace by 3-1. And the other results, Man United also on the winning ways again. They beat West Ham by 1-0. And a 1-0 draw for Arsenal against Burnley. And then the game yesterday was Chelsea that beat Tottenham Hotspur 2-0. So Manchester City still leads on the log, 57 points after 23 games. Liverpool 48 points after 22 games. On to some tennis news. Also, the Australian Open's happening. They're playing tennis after all the Novak Djokovic drama of leading up to the tournament. And the news from there is 35-year-old Rafael Nadal. He's trying to become the only player that has won 21 majors. He went through to the quarterfinals. He will meet Denis Shapovalov of Canada. Shapovalov, a bit of a surprise. He beat Alexander Zverev, the third seed. So Rafael Nadal through to the quarterfinals. And also through is Stefanos Tsitsipas there in action from Greece. He's through to the quarters, and also Daniel Medvedev, the second seed. In the women's draw, it's still number 1 seed Ashley Barty that is trying to become the first Australian to win the Australian Open in 44 years. So number 1 seed Ashley Barty, she's through to the quarterfinals. She meets Jessica Pegula in that round. And 2 big names that fell out over the weekend was Victoria Azarenka, the 2-time winner. She's out. And also the defending champion, Naomi Osaka, also lost and is out of the tournament. On to some cricket news. There was some big cricket in Cape Town yesterday. It was a scorching hot day in Cape Town, a heat wave, but the heat was on India, and it was South Africa, the Proteas, that won the one-day game by 4 runs yesterday. In that, they won the series by 3-0. A brilliant performance by the South African Proteas, beating the big cricket powerhouse India by 3-0 in the one-day series, and also beat them 2-1 in the Test series. And also in the West Indies, it was England that beat West Indies by 1 run. The West Indies needed 30 runs off the last over and made 28 runs. Almost an unlikely win, but England won by only 1 run. And unfortunately, the Ashes T20 game between the women of England and Australia, that got rained out yesterday. Their test start on the 27th of January. So, and also just very quickly, rugby results. That was the South African Springboks, the Blitzboks that won the Malaga Sevens tournament, and the United Rugby Championship. As we said, the Stormers beat the Bulls 30 points to 26, and the Sharks beat the Lions by 47 points to 37. So well done to the Blitzboks winning that tournament in Spain. And then just to close off real quickly, some boxing news. Namibian Sakaria Desert Storm Lucas, he fought to a draw against a very tough opponent Turksut Nambaya of Mongolia. That was in the United States. It was a draw, unfortunately, but it was Desert Storm. It was Sakaria Lucas that showed the world, the Americans, that he can fight. And in the featherweight, hopefully give him some title fights in future. So that's sporting news. Have a great week. Have a great Monday, and we talk again on Friday. Then we preview all the weekend's results. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you very much, Ari, for bringing us your sports news. After the break, your highlights. Thank you for staying with Africa. Good morning from 7 a.m. Let's get into today's headlines. Burkina Faso government denies army takeover after barracks gunfire. Government whips diplomats in Malawi. Nigeria outrage at Kano schoolgirl killing. United Nations says thousands of Eritrean refugees in Tigray are dying as access to aid remains blocked. In Zimbabwe, civil society pressures government to introduce tax for the rich. And those have been our stories.
Thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Africa Good Morning. Now, we do welcome your remarks regarding our show. You can email them to us. Our email is agm_2cents@nmh.com.na. Alternatively, we are on Facebook and Twitter. That's at Africa Good Morning. Our DMs are always open. Keep those lovely comments coming. Additionally, please get vaccinated, wear your mask, and avoid unnecessary public gatherings. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Same time, same place. And on that note is all our love, all our light.